Hello, and welcome to Themes to Be Seen's holiday special.
Woo!
So, I am Tara Kostick,
I'm Matt Klaus.
and on Themes to Be Seen, we discuss and analyze movies that maybe didn't get the recognition that they deserved upon release. We like to dig a little deeper into the themes and maybe help people look at movies in a different way than they might have before. So, this is our Christmas special. We are going to be talking about The Long Kiss Goodnight from 1996.
In the spirit of action movies being Christmas movies.
Which is a typical theme with Shane Black. He's the screenwriter. He wrote Predator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was his character in Predator?
Oh,
He was the guy with the glasses.
he told the jokes.
Yes.
The dirty jokes.
Yes.
But Shane Black has written so many classic movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was the original screenwriter for the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yes.
Last Boy Scout. I'm sure, I forgot my phone. I'm sure if I had my phone on me.
Lethal Weapon. We mentioned Predator. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is a movie I've never seen before.
It's fun. It's not like the most actiony Shane Black stuff, but it is the most quippy. It's Shane Black dialogue at its best. You also get prime. I believe it's Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. Just going back and forth. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's not his best movie, but it's fun.
Did we mention The Last Boy Scout?
I mentioned The Last Boy Scout.
Okay.
Yeah. Last Boy Scout is probably the most brutal Shane Black movie.
Yeah.
There's chunks of steak flying off people left and right in that movie.
I remember seeing The Last Boy Scout when I was really young and being traumatized by Halle Berry's death scene because it's so...
Oh, Halle Berry's
brutal.
big break movie was The Last
Yeah.
Boy Scout, even though she gets
She
mercilessly
gets gunned
murdered.
down, and that I remember seeing that as a kid, and it used to really freak me out.
Now, like The Last Boy Scout, like our topic tonight, are movies I watched way too young because there were times where it was just me and my dad in the house that we originally lived in, and he would do this thing where he went to Family Video, and if there was anything that looked like a B action movie or a B horror movie, he would just rent it. And that's what it was. He was one of those people that would just walk through movie stores and go and look at boxes. For people who are might be too young to remember, movie stores used to have to sell you, or movies used to have to sell you on watching it if they weren't big in the theater, with the box art, with the poster that was on the box of the VHS. And this is one of those ones that I think really found its footing in home release.
Another, most recently in recent years, Shane Black wrote, I believe he directed, he does more writing and directing these days, but a film called The Nice Guys.
Oh, yes.
With Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. I really enjoy that movie.
That movie just proves that he never really lost a step. He just had a hard time with the way studios handled his scripts. Because he did and you're the one that showed it to me because I didn't even realize it was a Shane Black movie.
Well, the thing is, too, he didn't really work for a long time because the script for The Long Kiss Goodnight was actually like a record-breaking script in that New Line Cinema paid him $4 million to acquire the script, and that's something that had never happened before. So he was the first screenwriter to sell a script for that much money, and he did catch a lot of flack from it. A lot of people called him a sellout, like that kind of thing. So he didn't really
Which a lot of people
do
have to,
a lot for a while after.
A lot of people have to realize that with screenwriting, screenwriters are stars. Like, when you think about the great screenwriters of our time, like Tarantino, Shane Black, they there are probably 4 or 5 movies that come out that they've written before they ever get paid at all. Tarantino didn't make any money on any movie until From Dusk Till Dawn. They made True Romance for like he wrote True Romance and gave it to the studio that made it for free. So for a screenwriter to get that money is kind of the point. To build up the body of work enough to where you can live on your scripts is the point of the job, and he shouldn't have been. That's a sad thing that he got labeled a sellout for actually selling a script.
Yeah. So, as we mentioned earlier, one of Shane Black's trademarks in his scripts is he likes to write action scenes revolving around Christmas time. And The Long Kiss Goodnight is a movie that we revisited about a year ago, and we had so much fun watching it again. Like, I hadn't seen it since I think it first came out, and we found an old DVD of it, but we rewatched it and we had a lot of fun with it, and we thought it would be a perfect movie to do for our Christmas special because it was kind of a box office failure at the time it came out, and it is an action movie starring a woman in the lead, Geena Davis, so it is a movie that I think deserves more recognition. And
which also, I didn't check the dates on this, but part of the reason for the box office failure may have been the name of the director, because if I'm correct, just previous to this, Renny Harlin, the director of The Long Kiss Goodnight, had made something that people were calling the worst movie of all time in Cutthroat Island.
It's considered one of the biggest box office failures ever. So,
which we also have a VHS of Cutthroat Island, just for fun.
Renny Harlin, he is Finnish, I believe.
He is.
But up to this point, he was already a well-known director. He was the director of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
He's a Dream Master.
The Dream Master. He directed Die Hard 2. He directed Cliffhanger. He is the director of Deep Blue Sea. He's still directing movies to this day, but...
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were gonna
No,
I
had a thought, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
But The Long Kiss Goodnight came out in 1996, and at the time, Renny Harlin was married to Geena Davis, and so Shane Black sold the script to New Line Cinema with the thought that Renny Harlin would direct and Geena Davis would star in it, and so Geena Davis and Renny Harlin were like contractually obligated to work on Cutthroat Island, and Cutthroat Island came out I think the same year, like about 10 months before The Long Kiss Goodnight, and it was a huge box office bomb. So
not only box office bomb, in rewatching it after I bought that VHS, it is hard to watch.
I remember we tried to watch it and we kind of shut it off early
because it was bad. And
yeah.
But what I was gonna say is, Renny Harlin is one of those directors that you see, like we've talked about just recently, that kind of uses the same actors over and over in every movie. You have Samuel L. Jackson, Geena Davis, Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
Which isn't that Modine that we get
yes.
for? Oh man, he's great in this because it's not him at all.
Wait, in Cutthroat Island?
No.
What are you talking about?
In The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Matthew Modine's not in this movie.
Who is it that plays the one-eyed guy?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Okay. Because it kind of looks like him.
No, that's not Matthew.
I thought it was Modine with a bald cap and some makeup.
No, if he were in this, he would have had a bigger role. But I was gonna say.
Oh, he works with Brian Cox a lot too.
Yeah. So yeah, they were married at the time that this movie came out, and there's a few different thoughts on why it wasn't successful. Notably the connection to Cutthroat Island. Another very kind of upsetting thought is because it was an action movie starring a woman,
which now is kind of commonplace. We see a lot of action heroines that do really well, or even in not so great movies, people love certain action heroines. Just in the past decade, we had a movie starring Zoe Saldana, which isn't a great movie, but people love Colombiana. It's not a great movie, but she's fantastic in it.
I mean, even prior to this, though, there were the Terminator movies and there were the Alien movies, but yeah, so Shane Black sold this, with the intention that Rennie Harlin would direct and Geena Davis would star, but then during development, New Line Cinema, kept bringing it up, like maybe we should change this and have this character be a male instead. So so Geena Davis had these two big box office bombs in one year, when at that point in her career she was trying to sell more action driven movies with a female in the lead, because I mean, even before this, think of all the movies she was already in, and she had already been this Academy Award winning actress. But
which if you're not familiar, if you're watching our show you probably are, but the big breakthrough, the big mainstream breakthrough for her would have been the legendary Thelma and Louise. I watched that movie in college in philosophy and film, and it is amazing. It's really her performance in that is really one of the most in-depth performances of a character changing over time.
I think I've watched it in 2 separate film classes as well. I think I wrote a paper on it too, but
that was the genesis for my for one of my papers in feminist philosophy and film, which I also took as a class.
Geena Davis is a very fascinating
she's
lady,
amazing.
though. So, Geena Davis, she's this 6 foot tall, stunning lady, and she graduated with a bachelor's degree, I believe, in dramatic studies. But she started as a model. She wasn't a famous model, didn't have any big magazine covers or anything, but she thought that would be a good way to break into the business. And then her first real role was in Tootsie, and then she just kind of
that's a movie I haven't seen since I was a kid.
She just kept making a name for herself, and of course everyone knows The Fly, David Cronenberg's movie The Fly, because she and Jeff Goldblum were married in the later half of the 80s. But
that's an interesting couple.
Yeah, very attractive, because they're both super tall, just I don't know.
That would be an interesting conversation. Interesting conversations to listen to.
Yes, both very intelligent, fascinating people. But so she's been in all these movies, Earth Girls Are Easy.
Also with Jeff Goldblum.
Yes. We mentioned Thelma and Louise. Baseball movie.
A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own. Beetlejuice.
Oh my God, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I loved Beetlejuice growing up, so I feel like Geena Davis is a lady I've always been aware of who she is, but
I've always admired her. One of the things that sets her apart, especially from actresses of her time, is she has this very full voice, this very deep voice that when she emotes, it sounds so much different, especially when she's acting and she emotes.
Yeah.
She sounds so much differently than you would think another actor. Especially there's moments in this movie where she is doing very actiony things, and other actresses would have had to sell it a different way, because she has this gripping voice that I've always admired.
There are moments in this film where she kind of scared me a little.
She's scary.
She has these very intimidating moments, like, I'm gonna get you, like, you're gonna die screaming, like, and she has these big eyes, and just, yeah, there's some moments where she's really intimidating.
Because of the shape of her face, she has these very high cheekbones,
yes.
And when she makes a serious face, you go, ooh. Like, she makes a couple, like, very serious, straight to camera faces in this that would intimidate anyone.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's very fascinating. Like, if you don't know much about Geena Davis, I would encourage you to look her up. Like, so she's done the modeling, and then, like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, she started getting into, like, archery.
She's actually a world championship qualifying archer.
She she tried out for the Olympics to be like a part of the
Olympic
archery team for, I believe, the Olympics that year were in Sydney, Australia. She came in, like, 23rd place, like, trying out, but still.
And that's amazing.
She's very much into, because of, you know, what happened to her that year of 1996, she wanted to see, you know, more women starring in action movies. So kind of, she's also taken this kind of activist role in her life. She's all about more inclusive filmmaking, and in 2015 she actually began the Bentonville Film Festival, which occurs in Arkansas every year. The first year, I didn't actually go to it, but it was like, I remember when it started, because, like, the downtown area, I remember walking around, and they had like this tent, and there were, like, dogs and stuff, because they were doing, like, pet adoptions. And even around town, like, on a lot of the business buildings, like, they had artists drawing, and there were, like, drawings of Thelma and Louise and, like, other famous women in movies. And so she has this film festival, and she's been winning awards for, like, her contributions to like, more inclusivity. Is that a word?
Mm-hmm.
My brain just is not working today, but yeah. Making, like, she wants more diversity in movies, so she's, you know, got a part in that these days.
Which now she has come out and made stay, because we have certain directors that I won't name who have come out and not been so happy about, like, the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And she's come out and said she thinks they're great because it doesn't matter what gender or age or race someone is. If they look like an alien or a supervillain, they get to be in the movie, and she thinks it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's the right stance to take for anybody.
So yeah, so she's kind of elevated herself from just this actress to, like a full-on activist. Like, she's, like, award-winning now for everything that she's doing, and I feel like she has this whole other level of respect to her name now, and she's just a fascinating lady. But to this day, in interviews, he still says that the role of Mitch is his favorite role that he's ever done, and that The Long Kiss Goodnight is, like, his personal favorite movie of his that he starred in, that he loves to watch the most.
Which you can't blame him, because, like I said, it looks like he's having so much fun in this movie. It bombed, which is sad, because he looks so comfortable in this role.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's having fun, and we'll get into the controversy of the Mitch Hennessy character once we get into the movie. We get to that part of the movie. Mm-hmm. But he looks like, this is his shot. We have to remember that Samuel L. Jackson didn't get his actual big break until he was well into his mid-30s, late 30s.
Yeah,
he started really late.
But yeah, he loved making this movie. I saw an interview, he loved working with Geena Davis too. Like, they got along really well together. And recently he was actually asked, like, what are your top 5 movies that you've ever done? And all of his favorites are, like, from this time period, from, like, 1996 to, like, 98, 99, I think. Like, movies that aren't, like, that well known as his others. Like, Pulp Fiction wasn't even on his list. Jackie Brown was.
Which,
but,
Jackie Brown, we were just talking
yeah.
we were just talking about that the other day. What were we watching? Because it was somebody brought up Pam Grier.
We were watching, there is this channel on YouTube. She does a lot of
Be Kind Rewind.
analysis. Be Kind Rewind, and she was doing the 12 Actresses of Christmas. It's a video special she does every year and then this year they decided not to pick actresses in holiday roles, but to pick, like, what's, like, a favorite movie you like to watch around Christmas time that's not holiday related.
From one particular actress.
Yeah.
And there was one of the YouTubers she invited onto her channel who picked Jackie Brown as the movie he tends to watch around this time of year, and Pam Grier's performance. And that is one of the times that I feel like Samuel L. Jackson, again, is just having the time of his life. When he's having fun making a movie is when you get these amazingly fun performances from him.
Yeah. And then Rennie Harlan has even said that this was his favorite movie that he's directed, and he still wants to make a sequel to it. Like, he said
I'm down.
He and Samuel L. Jackson have all these ideas of where Mitch's character could go, and, like, that kind of thing.
There's no chance in hell. But Rennie, Shane, anybody, if you see this, I'll help you write it. I'll put it to. I'll develop it. I'm here for it. I'll act in it. I don't care. Blow me up. Squibs all over the place. I'll take it. Oh my god, I want to be. If that ever happens, I want to be involved. That would be a dream for me, because this is possibly one of the first movies when I was young that got me really into, like, action movies in the first place. I was probably only 6 or 7. And so that was about the time where I was like, man, these action movies can be smart. Action movies can, like, you can have a great story and have really cool action set pieces. It doesn't have to be old kung fu movies where it's a set piece with a story hamstrung around.
I think we have a spam comment.
That's fine.
But we had mentioned The Last Boy Scout earlier and how dark that script was.
Very
dark.
The
script for this was originally much darker as well, and Mitch actually died in the original script, and they filmed it, but then test audiences hated it, and
test
they were
audiences
all like,
hated it because they loved the Mitch character so much.
Well, they started, like, yelling at the screen, like, you can't kill Samuel L. Jackson, you can't kill Mitch. So Samuel L. Jackson actually says that, like, in one of the last scenes where he's driving, he's like, you can't kill me. And
yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty funny little piece of trivia. But, yeah, so we have The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is about this school teacher,
Samantha Cain.
And so her opening narration is that she was born 8 years before on a beach in clothes that she doesn't remember buying because she has amnesia. It's like focal, I forget the exact...
Focal retrograde amnesia.
Yeah. So she is now happily living in this like small town. She has a boyfriend named Hale, and she has a daughter who, when she was, born, she was already 2 months pregnant, so she has no idea who her daughter's dad is, and she has no recollection of what her former life was. And so she's a school teacher, and she's like very involved in town. Like in the opening scene, she's in the Christmas parade, and there's these boys on the side talking about how hot Mrs. Santa, like how Mrs. Claus is,
which usually opening film voiceover is not very well received. I feel like this is excellently done. I feel like this is done correctly. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when you have voiceover at the beginning of a movie, it's kind of, it feels thrown in there because you don't know how else to do it. Mm-hmm. This feels like it's correctly done.
Yeah, and so she and Hale have like this holiday gathering, and she one of the friends is drunk, so she's driving him home. Oh, and we also get introduced to Mitch because we find out Samantha has been hiring like private detectives over the years, and
instead of hiring, she's hired all the expensive ones. Nobody got anything, so she just sticks to paying low money to like down and dirty, like not very good detective, like PIs. When we meet the Mitch Hennessy character, who is just the best character, he's shaking people down on fake prostitution scams. Mm-hmm. So he has his secretary pose as a prostitute, and before anything happens, he hired homeless guys. If you listen to the line, the other two guys who are acting like cops with him are just homeless guys he handed $20 to. They come into the room and shake the people down for money, pretending to be cops, taking bribes. And that's how we meet the Mitch character, is this kind of scuzzy way of making money. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because he asks one of the homeless guys to read the Miranda rights and he can't remember them.
So we have, all this, and then the scenes start kind of intercutting, like Samantha is driving like this drunk colleague home, and then Mitch's secretary finds a little bit of backstory on Samantha, like they traced a credit card, that kind of thing, and they found like a suitcase. Mm-hmm. And so she's driving him home, and this guy is like drunk and he's distracting her, and she hits a deer.
This car crash, it's a little ridiculous because she sees the deer, slams on her brakes, the deer comes through the windshield, and there's actually like a moment where she's screaming and then they show the deer freaking out because it's still alive.
And it's like, it kicks the guy in the face and it like scratches him.
Right. The car crashes into a tree and the deer flies away.
And she flies out too.
Yeah, she hits her head going through the windshield. Mm-hmm. And when she wakes up, or when she stands up, she has no shoes on, she's just in hose, and she walks through like a creek. Now you have to remember the movie takes place over a week, so we're about 5 days out from actual Christmas. Mm-hmm. And she walks through this creek barefoot basically and breaks the deer's neck with her hands and then passes out. Mm-hmm. So that's the beginning of the changes that we see.
Yeah. And then, so she's in the hospital, and then I believe we're also introduced to, what was that?
It's him.
Oh.
Dyson.
To, the villain here.
Timothy?
I didn't take notes on this. It was just like
okay. So Timothy,
rewatch.
We only ever get the name Timothy, and you also are led to believe that name is a cover because nobody ever says it like they says his name like they mean it. He is a CIA used interrogator. He's an operator. He's just kind of a killer for hire kind of guy, and he touts himself as always being able to tell when someone's lying.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when we meet him while he's torturing someone.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yep. And he's called by CIA handler Mr. Perkins, who is calling all the shots on the other end of this movie. Where are we? Bless you.
Thank you.
Oh.
So
she gets out of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And it leads us to.
Oh, okay. So the one-eyed guy.
Yep.
He's in prison.
Not yet. We're the kitchen scene.
No, but he... Oh, yes, that's right.
So, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is this kitchen scene. Because she has no memory of her former life, also has no physical memory of how to do certain things. Mm-hmm. But after the car accident, her body starts remembering things, skills she used to have, like, unintentionally. Mm-hmm. And she's... cutting up food. They're making like a soup, and she cuts her thumb, and this is the first time we hear her get like kind of verbally aggressive, because she cuts her thumb, and he goes, "Hey, do you want me?" Her husband says, "Hey, do you want boyfriend? Hey, do you want me to take care of that?" And she goes, "I'm going to finish cutting this carrot and I'm going to make you eat all the bloody pieces of it," or something like that. And it sounds like it's a good like halfway point between the Samantha and Charlie character, because she sounds like she's joking, but it's also a really dark thing to say.
Yes, while she was in the hospital too, she's starting to have like these dreams.
Oh, that
about,
dream scene. Yeah.
Charlie, like she has this vision of herself looking in the mirror, and her reflection is like, "I need a cigarette, like you used to smoke, and I'm coming back."
Yep, and it shows the two faces. Like, it shows Samantha's very concerned motherly face, and then that kind of smirk that Charlie always has. It's a good... There's some times in this movie where Rennie Harlan uses this really wide diopter that makes everything look squished to the middle of the screen. It's it's like fuzzy around the edges, and I think he uses that really well in this movie, especially like in this dream sequence. And then there are other times like when somebody gets punched in the face, and then you see their POV. He gets this really squished diopter that looks kind of cool. While she's cutting these vegetables, she starts to get really good at it. She's cutting stuff really fast, and the daughter, Catherine, who we see earlier discussing her mom's amnesia with two little girls.
It's something that she jokes about.
Right. She goes, "Come help me make dinner because sometimes I forget where the kitchen is." And the other two little girls look at her daughter like, "Oh my God." And like it's obviously a joke. But she starts like chopping stuff, and they're just throwing her stuff out of the fridge, and she's chopping it, and it's this like almost like family superhero moment. And then she throws a tomato and throws the knife through the tomato, and there's a record scratch. Like the music stops, and they like look at her. The daughter and Hal are scared of her.
Yeah.
Like it scares them, and she's like, and it's a line that comes back a few times where she goes, "Chefs do that, right?" Like. That's because she's convinced that, I can do this really well.
Like I used to be a chef.
She thinks that she used to be a chef.
Yeah.
And then she sticks the knife through the tomato, and she goes, Chefs do that, right? And it's no.
And what was the next scene? Was it the ice skating?
Wait. All right.
The villain is a great, smiley, happy psycho.
That's one of the things that Shane Black writes. I wrote that on purpose because in a lot of Shane Black's movies, in a lot of movies that he writes, you'll watch the movie and the bad guy is usually smiling. He usually is very happy to be doing these messed up things. Especially like this guy, the Timothy character in this, and Taylor Negron, that's his name, in The Last Boy Scout, is a really, he takes way too much pleasure in the awful stuff he does. He's super happy about it. They almost find like humor in torturing people. And this guy, I don't know who this actor is.
Craig Bierko.
What else has he been in?
So Craig Bierko, he was in like a number of sitcoms over the years. He was on a few episodes of Sex and the City. He played this like jazz guy that Carrie was dating. He's also done Broadway. I believe he was Tony nominated for The Music Man, like in the 2000s, I think. But yeah, he's mostly done like low-key stuff. Like he shows up like on random TV shows, and I can't think of the last movie he's done, but he did say that The Long Kiss Goodnight was the start of him kind of seeking out darker roles. But yeah, in this, like,
he's great.
He's a good looking guy, like an attractive villain, and
definitely. He does this very big smile when he's doing awful things, and it's another one of those concepts that Shane Black comes back to often, is these happy psychos. Like they know that what they're doing is bad and they take pleasure in it.
Yeah.
You just look over my notebook. I appreciate that. And this is where we get the ice skating scene. Yeah. Where she's taking her daughter ice skating. There's like a local pond where everybody goes ice skating, which can only happen in on the East Coast or the Midwest. You don't see that anywhere else. But this happens. This movie takes place between New Jersey, New York, and the Canadian border, by the way. So I believe these scenes are in Jersey. And she falls.
The daughter
falls and hurts her wrist. And this is the first time she gets this very stern face. And I forget how she says it, but she's like, the daughter says, I hurt my wrist. I don't want to do this anymore. And she says, life is pain. You'll get over it. Now you're going to skate all the way to the shoreline and you're not going to cry while doing it.
She's like, stop acting like a baby and get up. Like,
it's very cold.
Yes. And you can tell the daughter is startled by it.
Because it's not the Samantha character at all. She's always this very happy, love it. Like there's a few scenes where you see her go out of the way. She stops this kid from stealing cigarettes at the Christmas party, and it's kind of a dark joke, but it's told in a completely different way than the rest of the ones she tells. Where, Randall, if I catch you sneaking cigarettes again, they'll never find the body, and that it comes back later.
Yeah.
But she makes her keep ice skating, and then we find out that the daughter's wrist was actually fractured.
Yeah, so she's in bed, the daughter, and then Hale, they have like a tree house.
A very 90s family tree house.
So Hale goes up there because Samantha is just kind of up there cuddled in a blanket, and
she's crying.
She was like, I know she got hurt, but I didn't know her wrist was fractured. And then she's like, I can't remember what I said to her. Like, she feels really bad, but she doesn't, remember anything. So then this is the caroling scene, right?
Oh, yeah. I wrote down that this is a house assault scene that's actually way ahead of its time, because recently we've seen this, almost a scene just like this, over and over and over in movies like John Wick and Nobody and films like that, because this is a thing that I don't really remember seeing as much is an assault on like a suburban home, like a normal house. Earlier there's a obviously bad guy, he's a bad guy because he only has one eye and he's in prison, who sees Samantha in the Christmas parade on TV, and it's just like the local news the local news guy makes some pretty sexist jokes about what she looks like dressed as Mrs. Claus, and he recognizes her. He yells something about how he thought she was dead. She should have been dead. Where'd she come from? And
because she's the one that took his one eye, too.
Right. And so we see these Christmas carolers caroling badly, which we heard them in the background earlier in the movie, and they sounded good. They were like singing at the parade. Mm-hmm. So now when they're outside of her house and they sound like crap, and we see that there's a shotgun being held to the back of their heads, and as soon as they open the door, he pushes all them out of the way and tries to kill her, which is, it's a pretty cool scene. He's got it. It's not a realistic thing. It's totally a Shane Black invention, but an M23 grenade launcher mounted on the bottom of a 12 gauge shotgun. That's kind of cool. It wouldn't work in real life, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so he barges in, and they're fighting, and then Hale comes in, and he gets knocked out.
Hal gets messed up.
But
he gets rocked.
The daughter, was her name Caitlin?
Catherine.
Catherine? I thought it was Caitlin.
No, because she keeps calling her Katie later.
Oh, well, she comes down the stairs and almost gets shot, and it blows a hole like through the side of the house. So she goes
so
up,
cool,
and she picks her up and tosses her out this hole,
out of the
directly
hole
into the tree house,
into the door of the tree house.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
But yeah, she ends up killing this guy with her bare hands. She
breaks his nose with a pie and then breaks his neck.
Yeah, because they're fighting in the kitchen, and then Hale comes in just as she's like, killing him, and then
she looks up and says, "Chefs do that."
Yeah.
Which one of the only issues I have with this movie is in this scene. The grenade going off, blowing the hole in the wall. The explosion there doesn't look good. You can tell that it's early CGI explosion. Yeah,
like when the daughter kind of gets blown, you can see like an outline.
Yeah,
around
it's kind of a bummer, but that almost you can blame on its time.
Well, what's funny is too. So this was a New Line Cinema movie, and New Line Cinema did not have a good year in 1996. So before they had always done like mid-budget movies, like they're known for like the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
New Line is called The House That Freddy Built. So
this year they had 1996. They had like I think was Cutthroat Island New Line Cinema.
Cutthroat.
I think so.
Yep.
And then they had like 2 or 3 other movies that they put a little more budget into these movies for that year, and they all like did pretty bad. So yeah, New Line did not have a good year in 1996.
Which it was saved the next year by Freddy Krueger.
For which movie?
A New Nightmare.
Wasn't that earlier 90s?
Mm-mm. That was because it was right about the same time as Scream. It was right before Scream. Scream was 98.
Scream was 95, 96.
What? There's no way. I was old. I was old enough to see that movie in theaters.
So was I. Let's
my Aunt
check
Kenitha.
Google here.
All right, I'm probably gonna be wrong. Watch her.
New Nightmare was like earlier.
Anyway.
90s.
My Aunt Kenitha.
1994.
94.
Yes.
Well, it just goes to show how good it looks.
And then Scream came out, I think, like the year or 2 years after that. I think it was 96.
Oh,
Let
so
me
so
double check.
2022.
Yep, Scream was 1996. There's a new Scream coming out next month.
Oh. Well, stay tuned for that. That's a stay tuned surprise episode, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Scream was probably the only thing that Wes Craven was probably the only thing that saved New Line that year. Because Scream did well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, where were we? That little aside.
So she killed the one-eyed
She killed the one-eyed guy with her bare hands. Hennessy shows up trying to give her which they had talked on the phone previous to this very, very slightly. But he shows up to take her to the addresses and things that they found in this box of information that they may have found about her old life.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives the daughter this charm bracelet that she'd kept on her wrist.
It has a key on it.
And the number on the key had been filed off.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only thing that she had from her previous life. And she tells her to keep a candle in the window to light her way home. And she tells her it's called a vigil.
Because at this point, after just what just happened, she knows it's not safe to be with Hale and her daughter. So she's going to go off with Mitch and try to figure out a little bit more about her past and why this guy just came and attacked her family. But so the CIA guy, his name is Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
What was the teddy bear's
name?
Right.
Earlier in the movie, Catherine had been calling her teddy bear Mr. Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
And when the other little girls in the treehouse ask why, she says, my mom named him for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the name Mr. Perkins has been floating around.
So, yeah, so it's like over the years, like maybe she's had like, you know, little memories come back and, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
So
maybe not memory, but like...
Or feelings,
right.
Or...
Just little things that reminded her.
Like, oh, this name
right.
feels familiar.
You're right. So they start driving, and this is where we get... This is something Shane Black does well, and it's this almost like buddy cop road movie stuff.
That's what he does in a lot of his movies. There's a lot of, like, witty dialogue. It's like a banter.
Yeah.
So it is essential for his movies to have actors that have really good chemistry because they really need to work off each other
and
to pull it off.
And there is fantastic chemistry between Geena Davis and Samuel Jackson in this movie, which you see in famous Shane Black duos would be Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans, even though they hated each other.
That's a bummer.
It's a big bummer because it's a good movie.
How Bruce Willis seems to be difficult because even Kevin Smith had a really hard time with him on that one movie they made together. Like, he was so excited to work with Bruce Willis, and then he just said he was grumpy the whole time and, like, not... Like, he would try to joke around with him, and he just... wanted nothing to do with it. In
The Last Boy Scout, you have Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans playing, which they're not supposed to have chemistry as friends as much as Samantha and Mitch are in this movie. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to not like each other, but still, it seems like even in the movie, you can kind of tell they really don't like each other, like in real life. Mm-hmm. Some of those lines are given a little too accurately.
Yeah.
But then, we get some of that fun Shane Black dialogue here. Mm-hmm. I think this is where we do, hey, are you cold? Go ahead and turn the heat on. And she turns the heat on and he goes, it don't work, but it makes a loud noise. It distracts you from the cold. It's a good line. Made me giggle. This is also where we find out that the name Perkins... It flashes to a conversation with the president. Mm-hmm. And the president is talking to anti-intelligence CIA handlers, and one of them is Mr. Perkins. Mm-hmm. So we're left to wonder how this Mr. Perkins connects to Samantha and what she's going through. Brian Cox, we get here. We're introduced to his... Oh, shoot, what's his character's name? I can't remember.
Yes, because, like, in the postcard, he's referred to as her uncle.
Yeah. Regardless, he's playing Brian Cox. This is the role that this is usually how you see him act in every movie, but he does it so well that it never gets tiring. This very grumpy, put upon, like, snarky attitude that he has in every movie. I love it. I could watch it in every movie. He's fantastic.
It's a bummer, too, because, okay, one reason I think this movie is a lot of fun is because there's so many twists and turns. Like, you have no idea what's going to happen next, and there are stakes involved because you get these big named actors. Oh my gosh, my brain today. I was like, actors, that didn't sound right when I said it. But, like, you would think Brian Cox is in this for a longer amount of time, and he's not. And, same
David
with
Morse.
David Morse, too.
David Morse was a big name actor in the 90s, and he's not in this for very long.
Yeah, and so there's so many, like, you never know what's going to happen next, and it really keeps you interested. And I thought, like, you know, Brian Cox is going to be, like, you know, like, he's gonna be the one that tells her, like, everything, and he's gonna be, like, her guidance through the rest of the movie, and it's not like that at all.
But one of the things that his character does do well, the way it's written, is he institutes the paranoia in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
He is actually her former CIA trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Who actually, like, had an emotional connection to her, like a paternal figure, and he's trying to help them, but they don't believe him.
So she and Mitch are kind of going on this road trip. Like, they know they need to get to Jersey, and because of this postcard that was in the suitcase, and the postcard, like, it talks about, like, her being engaged to this guy named Luke, but of course it's all, like, code,
right?
But it just she's going off of what is actually in it, so she thinks, oh, like, I have this uncle, and I was engaged to a man named Luke, so maybe was that his name?
I don't remember.
Am I thinking of something
but
else?
Also, it references Uncle Max, who is the agency that she worked for.
That's the uncle then. Yeah. So she calls him, like, he's at home and he's having dinner, and there's this funny little dialogue because they have this fluffy little dog, and it's just been licking itself, and
I'm trying to remember his wife's name in this movie, but he says something about, I'd like to have an appetite, but that thing's been there licking its asshole for the past 45 minutes, and I'm sure if there's anything left there, it's either supposed to be there or has gone the way of God. And it's just given so perfectly. When he does, like, grumpy, snarky dialogue, Brian Cox is always fantastic.
Mm-hmm. For those of you that don't know, like, Brian Cox was the first actor to play Hannibal Lecter in a movie. He was in Manhunter. I think he was a pretty creepy Hannibal Lecter.
He wasn't the fashionable high society Hannibal Lecter that we get later in the story.
Yeah.
He's actually, like, scary serial killer, but
yeah, not quite like Anthony Hopkins, like, totally turned it into an iconic kind of character,
and then Mads Mikkelsen made it this very stylized character. It's almost like art piece at by the time it gets to Mads, but he is surprised to hear her voice. And he asks her to meet him between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. There's a halfway point.
Well, first she's like, because he's like Charlie, and she's like, what's my full name? And so he tells her name's like Charlene
Elizabeth Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah. and he tells them to meet him somewhere, and of course the villains are tapping his phone.
Mm-hmm.
So they...
And he knows, like, he's not dumb.
But... So they find out, like, where they're gonna meet, and Samantha does meet Timothy at... It's like a bar.
Not yet. We have the hotel scene first, where she finds the rifle. So,
yes.
So they stop at this little like roadside motel thing to stay the night before they meet Brian Cox's character. Yeah, and
I'm just gonna look up what his name was because I really can't remember.
It's gonna bother me.
I don't want to be calling him Brian Cox's character the whole time.
And he's smoking, he's drinking. This is where we learn about his habit, Samuel L. Jackson's habit of singing things. So singing things as a blues song, so he doesn't forget. We get turn off the downstairs light.
Oh yeah.
Before you go to bed at night. And she gets after him for smoking in the hotel room. She says, if you're going to smoke in the hotel or in the room, at least close the door because they have like adjoining rooms. And he's smoking and drinking, and I'm trying to remember. She gets a little Charlie with him here too. Like she gets cold, ugly with him. I forget what she says here, but it's not friendly. And he's like, fine, damn. And he closes the door. She gets a feeling to look through her bag, and she finds a false side. And in this false side is a sniper rifle that she puts back together on instinct. I forget what the noise is that he comes in for some reason, opens the door, surprises her, and she shoots a hole through the wall.
I think, does she have like a nightmare or something? She's looking at her reflection again because she also finds the knife.
Yeah.
In there.
Which we see a lot of characters with this one particular kind of knife. It has like a index hole, and it's got this very rounded. Timothy has the same knife.
Yeah.
And she sees herself with like a crack on her head, and she's like wet. And the nightmare is that she cuts her own throat, and then she wakes up and sees the rifle again, and goes to like take it apart. Take it back apart, and he opens the door, and she shoots a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And so he leaves. He's like, fuck that. I'm out. She goes, but I paid you, and he takes the money out of his pocket and like shoves it back. I don't want it. There's some pretty good Samuel L. Jackson yelling here.
Yeah, because then she's like, you don't know what it's like. I feel like I'm in a prison or something. And he's like, yes, I actually do know what that's like.
I know exactly what that's like.
He's like, I don't want to go back to jail. So, yeah. So, in the original script, I guess, like there. I had mentioned earlier the original script was a lot darker and more gritty than the movie, but I guess the original script there was a little more like background on Mitch, and there was a scene where he actually talks about how he was like gang raped in prison.
That sounds like something you'd hear in The Last Boy Scout. Like Shane Black's scripts for a while were hard to get through as movies, and I don't mean that in a way that they were bad. I mean they're so dark and so gritty that you get uncomfortable watching them, even though they are very true to life, seedy underworld stories, which you can imagine what something like The Nice Guys would be if it was probably exactly what Shane Black had written. She convinces him to stay, and I forget what she says. Something about her, something about the daughter. He's driving her back home. He's like, I'm done. And she convinces him, if she says, if you take me back home, those people are just going to come and kill Catherine. And this is where we get Hennessy's story. He was a crooked cop. He was stealing things to make money off in the evidence room, and his partner, who hated him, turned him in for it. And so he did 4 years for evidence theft, and now he's a PI.
Yep. Oh, in that, like, opening scene too, the guy that he's going after for the money, that, like, the bald guy that's been in a lot of stuff, I think his name is, like, Riz or something, but, he's also, like, when you see him, you're like, I know who that guy is. It's kind of like the Dick Miller, syndrome, like, oh, it's that guy. But yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff. He is actually, the current boyfriend of country superstar Reba McEntire. I learned that while doing some research on this, yeah.
So he asks for his money back, and they end up going to meet... Did you get Brian Cox's character's name? Nathan.
Sorry, I also have like a little piece of hair.
They go to meet him at a bar in a train station. Mm-hmm. Which, that's something you can't find anymore. You can find bars at airports, but not train stations. And, well,
I don't know. Grand Central in New York. I'm trying to remember. I think there might have been a restaurant that, like, had a bar, but I don't know. I only went there, like, twice. It was a madhouse, so I don't remember.
So, they go to meet him there, and this is the first time that Samantha sees Timothy, because of the bug on the phone, they know where they're going to meet, and the bad guys get there first, and Timothy's talking to her, and he's kind of doing, like, the pickup line thing. He asks if she recognizes him, and she says, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because he's really, bewildered by it. It's like, wow, she really doesn't know who I am.
And he says, when he calls Mr. Perkins on the phone, he says she's not lying. She doesn't remember me. And this is where we get in a pretty cool Shane Black gunfight. Just pieces of meat flying off people. There's bullets everywhere. Paper. One of the cool things that Rennie Harlan did for action scenes is that there was always ambient things floating in the air. There's lots of paper flying.
Dyson brought us a toy.
Welcome to the show, folks.
Is that your Game Boy?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, bye.
He's part of the show now. If you hear a noise and you're listening to this on Spotify, that's our dog playing with a toy.
And he just knocked some ornaments off the tree.
Did he? Oh, well. Which, this is the first time I've had a tree up in the house in years. Check it out, everybody. Doesn't it look nice?
It's kind of hard to see right now, but we have to have, we tried doing more, like, ambient lighting last week, but then our webcam wouldn't focus. Like, we were totally blurred out, so we have to have, like, a big, like, lamp on in here.
It's kind of a bummer. The bartender in this bar scene, who only has, like, 2 total seconds of screen time, is in the Boondock Saints as the guy... Okay, so in the Boondock Saints, when Defoe goes to the bad guy's mansion dressed as a hooker and almost has sex with a guy in the bathroom and ends up shooting him, that's the guy playing the bartender in this movie. He just has such a recognizable... you want to go around with the champ? That's him. The shootout is awesome. They're convinced that this is the reason that they're convinced that Nathan set them up, is because either he set them up and those people were there to kill them, or because he picks them up, he's the one that saves them from the train station. Either he set them up or he knew it was bugged and didn't tell them. Either way, they don't trust him. So this is where we get a scally cap. I wear scallies. I've been wearing them all season. Samuel L. Jackson puts one on here that is beyond what I will do. It is fuzzy and it is green. I don't think I could pull off a fuzzy green one. It's
You should try it.
I will not. He knocks out Nathan with a tire iron, and they take off. They leave her coat because the wet.
She drapes it over his head.
We forgot about the end of this set piece, of the shootout set piece. So somebody throws a grenade into a hallway, and they're all ready to like shoot other guys with guns, and somebody throws a grenade. And so they're running down this hallway away from an explosion. She shoots an Uzi through a window, and they jump out of this window over a frozen, like, river. And then she shoots the ice on the way down to break their way through. And that's why when he saves them, they're wet.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was funny because even though... So... They're approached by this guy who's coming up, and he has a newspaper, and he's hiding a gun, and Samantha sees, like, he's pulling something out, and she knows that Mitch has a gun in his pocket.
In his right pocket, because it goes back to the song.
So she reaches into his pocket and just shoots through the coat pocket, but it's funny because they're running, and then they're in this hallway, and, they're leaning up against the wall holding the guns, and he's kind of telling her how to shoot, or like they've got, like, they're working on a plan for how they're going to get out, and then the grenade comes in, and he's like, never mind, run for your life.
Yeah, it's a good line. Never mind, run like hell.
But yeah, so she shoots out a window, and they like jump through, and it's this really cool looking scene, but basically they're on their way down, and there's ice, and she starts shooting at the ice so that they can just, like, fall right through it into the water.
It's cool. It's cool. It's a cool end to an action scene. This is why they don't trust Nathan. They knock him out with a tire iron, steal his car, and leave her coat. Yeah. Which is how he ends up finding them later. They go to the address that the fiance. The fiance that they found out about lives. And she's talking, and he's like really surprised to see. He's acting very surprised to see her. He's acting very cordial. Because
she's like, I think I was engaged to you. And he's kind of... That's why, like, this movie, I didn't think it was... Because I truly thought, like, oh, this must be, like, the guy she was... Because he's acting all warm to her and stuff like that, and she knows all this stuff about him, and
she's like, he has a pin in his leg, and he sits down when he pees, he doesn't own a TV, she knows all this stuff,
and she's like, now that I've seen him too, like, it's kind of coming back, so you're like, oh, like, so yeah, she knows who this guy is, and then
Nathan gets there without them knowing, puts a gun to Hennessy's back, and he's like, you idiot, engaged means that he's the target, she's set to kill him. Uncle Max on the postcard is the company, the bureau she works for.
This is the scene too where the little notebook, because that's how he found out where they are, because in the coat pocket was this little notebook with the drawing of the duck, and
it's a duck. Here's all your notes right next to this obviously drawn male genitalia. And he goes, it's a duck, not a dick. I laugh every time. It's perfect.
So, yeah, and then they're like, this guy was her last target. And so they run out. They're, like, yelling, trying to warn her. And there's a helicopter with Timothy, and she sees the helicopter, and she recognizes, like, you can kind of tell, like, she kind of recognizes Timothy, and then she turns to Luke, and he, like, knocks her out.
We find out that Luke is a code name because his name is actually Dauntless. He is a terrorist. He's like a money man for terrorist actions. And this is where we get another one of those Shane Black set pieces, the water wheel torture scene.
Oh, and Daedalus is played by David Morse.
David.
Yeah, like in these scenes, you got these two like well-known actors, and this is pretty much their limited screen time in the movie. Because Samantha doesn't really get that, that closure with Nathan. Like, you think she's gonna find out more, you're gonna learn more about their relationship, and
right,
you don't.
So he has her tied to a water wheel, like a wheel that would spin for like a windmill, and
because he's pretty much known for torturing people and getting information out of them.
Right. And she's still Samantha. Like, she doesn't know what he's talking about. He goes, you have to tell me if my identity's safe.
Yeah, and then Timothy comes in and she's like, you're that guy from the bar.
Yeah. And they're like, it really surprises Daedalus because he's like, oh, she really doesn't remember. We got to make sure, though. He's like, he's going to kill her anyway. So he's going to torture her to death. And
he's like, I only need 5 minutes. Like, give me 5 minutes and I'll get everything out of her.
Right. So he puts her under the water. And this is where we see that he killed Nathan the same way. He killed Nathan and just left his body under the water, tied to, like, the side of the dock house. And she comes back up, still doesn't know anything. We get some pretty cool makeup here. Like, all the colors out of her.
Like, her lips are turning blue, yeah.
I forget what the switch is. What he says that triggers her before she goes back under the water. But this is one of those lines that she gives where...
I think maybe it's, like, the act of being, like, tortured itself that is kind of, like, being submerged in the water. And then she's seeing Nathan there. She
gives a cool line here,
because she starts getting flashbacks of what happened to her, because we do find out. So Timothy and this one-eyed guy had her tied up in this trunk, and this is where she took out his eye, and she got away from them, and she like jumped off the edge of wherever they were, and she fell into some water.
One of the things that I wanted to point out is that earlier in the movie, the words "long kiss" is used, and that's right before the car accident where she bumps her head. Before he dunks her under the water with the knowledge that he's going to kill her, he says "good night." So it's literally the 2 points where she starts turning back into Charlie. We hear the words "long kiss" and "good night."
Well, in the opening narration, too, she talks about how she kissed her former self goodnight. So, yeah, it's kind of a running line of dialogue through the movie. Like, we hear it 2 or 3 times, I think.
When she goes back under, she does, but I forget the line she gives here, but it is one of those cool, like, straight-faced Charlie lines. Earlier in the movie, Nathan had been talking. He hands Samantha a gun, and he hands Hennessy a gun, and Hennessy gives a line like, "Damn, old man, how many of those do you have on you?" And he's like, "I have 3. I keep 1 in each shoulder holster, and then 1 right down next to Mr. Wally, because men who," which is his line, it's pretty funny, "men who frisk search other men tend to avoid searching their crotch." So he keeps a little gun in his underwear in his crotch. And so she takes under the water, she kind of dislocates her own thumb and then reaches into his underwear to get this gun that they probably didn't get off his body. And this is one of those cool shots of the movie when he brings the wheel back up and she already has the gun out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And she first shoots his leg because before she's submerged that last time, you get that terrifying look on her face where she's Charlie and she's like, "I'm gonna make sure you can't use your legs again," or something like that.
Yeah.
So
she shoots him in the leg, and
he's about to pull out a gun on her, so she shoots him again.
She goes over to make sure he's dead, and he's really dead. It's kind of a cool thing because they show Hennessy. He's been like beat up, and they took all his clothes and they just kind of left him in a basement. And it's shown from like the camera's just on him, but you hear like gunshots going off and explosions, and it's kind of dark. You see he's a little bloody, and then the door opens and she's like Arnold Schwarzenegger holding 2 machine guns.
Because he, it kind of shows, like, looking up to, like, under the rafters, you kind of see shadows and you hear, like, the gunshots and stuff like that.
It's shot well because it doesn't have, a movie like this doesn't have to show you everything. And it's from his point of view, too. So even up till now, Hennessy has no idea the extent of who Charlie is. But now she is fully Charlie. Like, Samantha Cain is totally gone. Where are we? Oh, we cut to Atlantic City, New Jersey. Gross. They go into, like, this almost, like, honeymoon suite hotel room. There's, like, aerated bubble water walls, and there's, like, a circle bed.
Yeah.
This is where she transforms herself back into Charlie, the way she used to look. She cuts her hair and peroxides it. She cuts her hair with a knife, by the way.
She uses scissors, too.
Oh, does she? Okay. She puts on eye makeup and this red lipstick, and it's totally different.
It's like a nude lipstick.
Right.
Yeah.
It's totally different from the way Samantha looked, though. And, we get more cool Shane Black banter here. She walks out and goes, oh, she sees that his bandage is like seeping through, and she goes, oh, you're seeping. Here, look at this. She opens a robe, and he goes, whoa, and then she tears the bandage off, and he goes, what'd you do that for? And she goes like, what? I distracted you first. Like, there's some good stuff here.
She's drinking again. She's smoking.
Yeah.
Oh, that scene earlier in the hotel when you said she was getting kind of snappy with him. It's because she swore, and he was like, when I knew you before, like, you didn't talk like that.
Oh, jinkies, I burned the cookies.
Yeah. And she's,
and then she tells him to watch his fucking mouth. Yeah. Or she tells him to watch where he's fucking smoking or something like that. Yeah. Where were we? Oh, can I just point out the idea that she did, like, I wish she'd have been able to pull it off, but she almost does a smoking shot in this. So the idea of taking a shot, you're holding the shot glass here, you're supposed to be able to hold your cigarette here so that when you roll it, you can take the shot, drop the cup, and put your cigarette back in your mouth. And she does do a cool job of, like, rolling the shot glass along her face and then taking the shot. That's an old thing I learned. I
didn't know what that was. I just thought it looked cool.
It does look kind of cool. It's something I saw people do growing up in bars in the 90s.
Oh.
Like, you hold your cigarette in these 2 fingers, and then you roll the shot glass along your face while you're taking the shot, and you put the cigarette back in your mouth while still holding the... I've seen many of people do that and pull it off. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah.
We cut to her old handlers. So they know about her. They know she's back. This is the first time we hear about Operation Honeymoon. We get the part of the story where Perkins and Timothy are working together, and we understand now that he has hired Timothy, and Timothy used to be a target. He used to be a known international terrorist, and now he's working with the CIA.
Yep.
Because Charlie's been gone. We learn that it's 2 days until Christmas while they're in Atlantic City. And she makes a phone call to Perkins, and she knows, like, this is kind of a chess match portion of the movie where, like, okay, he knows that I know he's gonna send people to kill me. I know that he knows that I know. You know what I mean? So she's like, I'll send you back down here and then watch you. And he's like, you're not going to use me as bait. And that's another funny, because now we have a whole different dynamic between Hennessy and Geena Davis's character, who's now Charlie. Now she's in charge, and she's the tough one, and he has to follow her lead, and it's a cool, like, dynamic shift.
It's kind of funny, too, because he's starting to berate her a little bit. He's like, you need to call your daughter.
Well, and then there's a part where she tries to have sex with him.
Yes, but he finds, because he finds the torn picture.
She's ripped herself out of all her family pictures.
Yeah.
And he goes, and she says something about how she killed that school teacher. And he's like, well, I actually like that school teacher.
Yeah, and he's pretty much says, like, the only reason she's trying to sleep with him is so she can officially, like, get rid of the family. And so he's like, you need to call your daughter. And
it's 2 days till Christmas.
Yeah, she's like, I wasn't the one that wanted the kid. Samantha's the one that had her. Like, it's like this whole new dynamic now. The way that she's looking at her own daughter.
Definitely.
Which it does turn around nicely at the end of the movie. But
she leaves because of the argument. And at first you think there's a guy robbing her, because there's this, like, random guy who pulls a gun on her, and she's laughing at him the whole time. She's like, all right, where's the rest of them? Oh, come on, you didn't even wait till midnight. We were supposed to meet at midnight. Now you're following me around. This is dumb. And he's got a gun to her head, and then all of a sudden Hennessy has a gun to his head, and they are Hennessy and Charlie are bantering back and forth about how dumb this all is.
Yeah. And
the guy with the gun on her is like, I still have this pointed at her, and then she takes it. It's pretty funny, because they just completely ignore this guy that they know for a fact has no chance of walking out of this alley. Oh, the guy with the gun walks up to her. It's a good Shane Black line. The guy walks up to her and he says, hey, baby, are you looking for a party? And she says, no, I was saving myself until I get raped.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, what? Like, it throws him off so hard. Because now she has this very dark, very sick sense of humor. Like, her sense of humor now actually kind of, like, some of the jokes that she tells as Charlie makes me blush a little bit. Where are we? Oh, they go back to Jersey to get the bracelet, the charm bracelet.
Yeah, so she is, she's fully Charlie again, and she's remembering that she had, like,
a cachet.
Yeah. And what locker it's in, and how it had, like, passports and stuff in it, because she wants to leave the country. And he's got this funny line, like, yeah, let me just pull that all out right now.
Oh, she says, I need 2 passports, 2 IDs, and a lot of money. And he goes, oh yeah, just wait for me to pull all that out of my ass. And she kicks him. Oh, I forgot about the truck thing. She kicks him out of the truck. He goes, what do you even need me for anymore? And she goes, you know what? You're absolutely right. And she just pushes him out of the moving truck that they stole. And he lays there. The whole shot is just on him laying in the middle of the street. He puts a cigarette in his mouth. He lights it, and she comes back around.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But yeah, so they have to go back to her house and get the charm bracelet, because the key to this locker is on it. And
she doesn't know where it is. So they have to she has to break into her own house.
Yeah.
And this is where we see the Randall kid again.
Yeah.
She has the rifle from the suitcase that she's carrying around. And she's walking up to the house. She's being very careful to make sure that nobody's already at the house. And she sees the Randall kid outside smoking. And she says something to him like, hey, what did we talk about the last time I saw you trying to smoke? She takes it from him, she takes a hit off it, hands it back to him, and then, like, she kind of points the rifle at him a little bit, and when she walks away, the kid pees himself, and he just, like, throws the cigarette. It's pretty funny. She finds it upstairs in the daughter's room, and, like, the teddy bear is wearing the bracelet as a necklace.
Yeah.
And she looks through the scope and sees the daughter and Hal in the nativity play, which there's some funny lines about the nativity play in the opening of the movie, about how the wise men are all teenage girls, and it's the first nativity play she'd ever seen where Joseph is staring at the wise men's tits the whole time. It's a funny line. Where was I? Oh, this is where Timothy kidnaps the daughter right out of the church.
Not yet.
No?
So Mitch is out in the car. He's kind of parked over by some trees, in front of the house, and he sees a car approaching, so he starts honking to let her know, and he's basically leading this car on a chase, so she grabs the ice skates.
This set piece is phenomenal. Nobody else... You try to make this scene now, it's not going to look as good. And I don't know what it... Another director wouldn't be able to pull this off. Because it's kind of difficult to make it look right. She's ice skating in a straight line because the road goes like this over the river, and she gets to ice skate in a straight line as fast as she can to catch up to the cars. She shoots the car that drives out and onto the lake towards her, and she shoots everybody in the car coming towards her ice skate. She, like, plays chicken on ice skates with a car. Good. It's some good action movie stuff. It's would never happen in real life, but it looks cool in a movie.
Yeah, I guess originally they had wanted her to do some, like, ice skating tricks and stuff in this scene too, but
there's no point. Like, the idea that Charlie would be the type of person to just skate straight at the car is so much better than having her do tricks.
Yeah. So yeah, she guns down this car, and then where do they go after this?
Okay, so she gets a call. This is where Timothy kidnaps the daughter.
Yeah.
And he gets her cell phone number off the daughter's cast.
Because they're in a church, and
oh yeah, this is kind of messed up.
Like, he has like a mask that he holds up to, like, gas her to knock her out, and you're thinking, like, this church is full of people, like, someone had to have seen it, and it does show someone does see it, but he threatens this lady's kids.
He says, and I quote, "Lady, if you make a noise, you will leave this church with 2.4 kids."
Yeah.
It's a good line.
Like, this guy really does not care about who he hurts, like, kids, adults, it doesn't matter to him.
Which, there's two lines later in the movie that are almost sickening.
Yeah. So yeah, they kidnap her daughter.
They get the cell phone call, and they're trying to figure out how to head off. They know that he says, go to this one particular Holiday Inn, call me back from there, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Because he doesn't want to talk on a cell phone.
Right. He needs to talk to him on a landline. So they're trying to find out a way to head off, like, get in front of him being in front of them, and they figure, why don't we just hijack the phone company, which something nobody's ever thought of.
They have 15 minutes, so Mitch is, like, looking in the glove compartment, and he finds, like, these telephone bills.
Yeah, he finds the address for the actual place.
Yeah, he's like, can we get here in 15 minutes?
And they walk in, they have it run a patch so that he thinks that they're calling him from the Holiday Inn, but really they're patching so that they can tell where he's calling from. And they find out that it's in Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Which is where the compound of Mr. Perkins is in.
And this is where they're going to carry out the Operation Honeymoon.
Yep. They get to Niagara Falls, and we find out the actual plot of the story here. We find out what we've been wondering the whole time. What is Operation Honeymoon?
Mm-hmm.
What they're going to do is, which actually we don't even find out why yet. We just find out what Operation Honeymoon is.
Yeah.
That they're going to drive a semi-truck into, what is it, Scranton? Or no, it's somewhere in New York. It's like some suburb of Buffalo or something.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to leave the semi-truck there, and the whole truck is one giant thermal bomb.
Yeah, and they're gonna call it a terrorist attack.
See, we don't know any of that yet.
Yeah.
We just know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So then, yeah, I don't know if we really discussed it. So Samantha was the fake persona that she had been using to find out more about Daedalus. Yeah, so that's why the whole Samantha thing, because that was just
her
cover.
alias.
Yeah.
Wait, what was I doing? Oh, so this is where we get Charlie breaking into this compound to try to get to her daughter. A couple of good throat sticks. If there's one thing Tara doesn't like in movies, it's throat stuff. And there's probably 3 or 4 people that Samantha just right in the.
Yeah.
It's pretty. She's straight up like. It's probably 3 or 4 that she comes up behind. She sees in one of the rooms of the compound there's a candle, and she knows that that's because she asked her daughter to light a candle for her. And Perkins says multiple times that he's not a monster. He didn't want any of this. Most of this is Timothy's idea. Operation Honeymoon is his idea. Everything else going on around it is Timothy's idea. So he leaves Catherine with a doll. A little girl should at least have a doll on Christmas.
2 days before Christmas.
Right. And, wait, where are we going? Oh! Here's one other issue with the movie. Timothy says, they know that she's coming to save the daughter. They turn on all the lights, and Timothy says, I need her alive and unmarked. So what do all the bad guys do? They fully open fire. I need her alive and unmarked. Everybody just pulls triggers. She falls down into the loading dock, and somehow a gas can gets opened up, and
because she's it's dark down there, and initially she's just shooting everywhere, I think, in case there's people down there. But...
And he goes, do you want to try that again? Because looks pretty flammable down there. I smell gas. And he's this actor had a good old time with this character, because he's like, hey, I smell gasoline down there. Wouldn't be too bright to keep pulling that trigger now, would it?
And then you see her looking at the daughter's doll.
Yeah.
And
so they decide to not. Oh, right before she goes into the compound, there's actually a pretty touching scene between Charlie and Hennessy that we kind of skipped over. You know they're gonna blow my head off, right? This is the last time I'll look like this.
She's like, this is the last time I'm gonna be pretty.
Yep. There's a kiss, but it's not like a romantic kiss. It's it is romantic, but it's not sexual. They, instead of killing her, decide, because Timothy's kind of a sick guy, they decide they're going to put her in a walk-in freezer, her and the daughter in a walk-in freezer, and let them freeze to death together.
And they do have a body in this freezer, and we find out later it's going to be who they're blaming.
It's the patsy for the bomb.
Yeah.
Which, this is where Perkins explains the why. Yeah. Why this is happening.
Because she's like, I'm going to die anyway. Why don't you tell me?
Right. Which is a good way to get around the bad guy explaining his whole plan in a movie kind of thing.
Yeah, she's kind of befuddled that Perkins is a part of it too. She's like, oh, now you're hiring the enemy because they're looking for funding from the government. And
this movie's a little closer to home now than it should be. Watching the plot of this movie, a CIA operation to scare the American public into pressuring Congress. The CIA committing a terrorist attack under the guise of, quote, blaming the Muslims is a line given in this movie to pressure Congress into giving more money to, like, the CIA and the military.
Yes, because that that earlier scene with the president and they're like Perkins is like where's our funding, and the president is like health insurance.
Yeah, he says if you're wondering if this doesn't go the right way and you're still wondering where your money is, it's healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare.
Which little closer to real life than it should be now. I don't know how Shane Black thought of some of this, but I wonder if he's watched the news in the past 8 years and gone, whoa, I read the future. But this is where and Perkins leaves. She tells Timothy that Catherine is his daughter, and this is one of the lines that make you hate him earlier in the phone call between them when he says that she can't screw it up. He doesn't say, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill your daughter. He says, I'm going to blind her and then shoot both of her knees out. Which is infinitely worse.
So yeah, we do find out that Charlie and Timothy had, like, they were involved. She calls it at one point they bumped pelvises.
Yeah.
They were bumping pelvises, but yeah.
He was also a target that she was trying to get close to, and that's what caused the injury to her that lost her memory. Yeah, and so from their night together, like, he was the one that got her pregnant. The second... Oh my. This show is a disaster! The second line that really makes you hate this guy is the daughter's not in the walk-in freezer yet, and he yells, "Bring my little bitch in here." And you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this guy just get it. Like, it pays off later because he does, but he actually does twice. And this is one of those moments where they're in there and he's about to close the door and she has that scary look on her face. And the line, "I'm gonna make sure you die screaming." Because she's like, this isn't over, and like she just looks so scary. We get two fantastic lines in this freezer. Okay, we get, "I'm gonna make sure you die screaming," and then so they close the door. We find out that she had filled the baby doll with gasoline. Yeah. So she uses one of the meat hooks in the walk-in freezer to dig a hole under the door, and then she like uses the little girl's retainer to make sure that the gasoline goes under the door to meet the rest of the gasoline outside that had been pouring out. Okay, already cool. But she's using the meat, it's cold in there, and she's using the meat hook to try to get a spark to light the gasoline. Tearjerker moment. The daughter kept matches in her cast to light the candle that she had asked her to keep in the window. It's so good. And this is really the turnaround for Charlie caring about the daughter. Yeah, because she's like, "I love you." But there was a line of dialogue where they're like hugging because the daughter is cold, and she's like, "Am I gonna die?" And Charlie's like, "No, you're not gonna die, but they are." Oh no, we're just, though at that time she says, "No, we're just gonna take a nap like polar bears. We're just gonna take a nap," because it was after she realized she couldn't make. It's between her realizing she can't make a spark with the hook and knowing that she has the matches. No, we're just gonna take a nap like polar bears, and she hands her the matches, and that's when we get another really cool Charlie line. She's like, because she doesn't know if she's going to be able to pull it off yet. She goes, "Mommy, are we going to die?" And she goes, "No, but they are. And she lights the gas. Oh, it's so good. Such a good line. We might have to speed up. We have 9 minutes left in the show. They get out.
Because Timothy is about to shoot Mitch. He has him tied up.
The gasoline explosion goes up through the building, blows Mitch out a window. This poor guy gets beat up this whole movie. Blows Mitch out a window. He lands still in the chair. It kind of just blows Timothy back into the hallway. Catherine runs, and being a dumb little kid, which Shane Black knows kids are dumb, she hides on the truck.
Well, because her mom told her to run and hide, and she doesn't know about.
Yeah, kids are dumb.
Yeah, but Mitch sees her getting on the truck, and Charlie's like running through the woods because she's trying to like.
And she had taken this M16 with like it's like a night vision scope, and he pretty much comes to the conclusion he's going to sacrifice himself to get the little girl out of the truck. And it's a pretty cool set piece. She's spotting for him with the night vision scope, and there's smoke everywhere, so he can't see where all the other guys are. And she's telling him, like, on your right, on your left, 30 degrees right. And there's actually a kind of a funny, on your right, no, your other right, you fucking idiot. I mean, it works there. And he gets shot multiple times, and then he falls over.
Twice. He
Is
gets
it twice?
shot, like, in the foot, and then...
in the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not... Yeah, it's, like, on the other side of his chest. And she freaks out and just massacres everybody. The truck gets away, but she eventually catches up and, like, gets control of it. So she's now driving the truck, and being this movie, the brakes go out on it while she's trying to get it to stop, and it stops on a bridge directly on the American-Canadian border.
Yeah.
Which is the ending set piece for this movie. A+, Shane Black. Best place. Now, on the Canadian border, there are Christmas lights. There's all the signs, you know, this way, that way, have your passport out. There's Christmas lights everywhere. And this is why I say this movie could not take place on any other holiday. Because if not, those lights would not be there. She gets control of the truck. Oh! She crashes the truck. Here's Shane Black pulling out some of that craziness again. When the truck turns over and is still sliding, she crawls out the driver's door and is surfing a crashed semi. She's like standing on the semi while it's sliding on its side. Fantastic. I love it. There's a fight here. We're going to skip a little bit. We find out that they put Hennessy in the car with the Patsy dead guy. And there's a fight here between Timothy and Charlie in a lock.
Yeah.
So, if you're not familiar with what a lock is, it's a chamber that fills and empties itself with water to move boats around bridges instead of the other way around. You pretty much only get them at large waterways, Panama, the Soo Canal, things like that. Which you think this is where Timothy dies because she knocks him down and he falls into the river.
Yeah.
But he gets out and he's all beat up. Now everybody's beat up. Nobody in this movie is not bloody at this point. Where are we? I'm trying to speed up because we technically only have 5 minutes left in the show, and I don't care. She kills this guy who's shooting at her out of the helicopter, and he falls into the Christmas lights and gets electrocuted. Like, it wraps around his neck, and as he hits the Christmas lights on the way down, it electrocutes him and his body catches on fire. A+. She saves Catherine, gets Catherine out of the truck. This is the emotional portion of the movie. If you hadn't cried yet, you'll get a little teary-eyed at this part. she tells Catherine to get gone. She's been shot now. She's been stabbed multiple times. She got stabbed by Timothy. She got shot by the guy in the helicopter. She's roughed up. Bad. She tells Catherine to run away because I think we only have 2 minutes left in the bomb before the bomb goes off. She runs away, and then she comes back, and she starts pounding on her and yelling the things that she said to her when she hurt her wrist.
Yeah.
Life is pain. Don't be a baby. Get up. She's like crying and yelling while she's pounding on her back to get up. It's pretty. It's emotional. She decides that she is going to try to get up and save her. Hennessy wakes up in the car, and this is where we get the line. I believe it's, "You motherfuckers can't kill me that easy." and it's Samuel L. Jackson yelling a fantastic line with the word "motherfuckers" in it. So he drives the Patsy car. He pushes the dead guy falls out of the car and off the bridge. It's a throwaway thing. Like, they don't show it close up, but it's funny to see, like, in far away. And he picks them up, protects them, because she's on a radio calling for help. Because there's no way... I'm trying to remember how this goes down. He drives the car, he picks up Catherine, and then a helicopter picks up Timothy. She uses the Christmas lights like a...
Because Timothy is starting to shoot at the car, so she's trying to distract him.
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's what it is. Yep. And she uses the Christmas lights like a counterweight she cuts one of the Christmas lights. It takes her up to the burning dead guy's body. She grabs his gun and shoots Timothy, but he's like not dead. He falls out of the helicopter and lands on the truck. I'm trying to remember how she gets away. She drops back down.
Yeah,
because she pops all the Christmas lights on the way down with her feet.
Yeah.
See? Christmas movie. She gets in the car, they're driving away, and Timothy's still alive as the bomb goes off, and we get a second of him, like, exploding. We get the explosion going off underneath him. It's kind of gruesome. The explosion catches up to the car. Here's a funny line we have had almost no dialogue between the little girl and Hennessy. But this moment is kind of funny because the empty cars are flying over them and landing in the road. And the little girl goes, "Don't hit the cars!" And he goes, "Duh!" That's pretty good. Yeah. All right, and that's the end of they pull up to a house, just a random house, and he tells her that you get the impression that this is where he's gonna die, because he's like, "This is the end of me. Go to the house, call for help. I'll be right here. I'll stay with the girl, and then it flashes away.
Yeah. So Hale and Charlie and her daughter, they're living in this quiet area now. It looks like they're on a beach.
No, they're out farmland, ranch land. But she gets a call from the president.
Yeah. Congratulating
her and asking her if she wants to come back and be
she's driving the car.
She's driving the car almost literally
looking like Thelma and Louise.
Yeah. There's a little nod in there.
And she has the bonnet thing.
Yeah,
on.
Rennie, like a babushka.
Yeah.
Rennie knew what he was doing. He put her in a red convertible wearing a babushka. He knew what he was doing. And she gets call from the president. She's like, "No, I'm not. I won't be doing that."
She's like, "I've got papers to grade."
Right. And it shows that her family is now living on farmland. They're probably not in New York anymore. They're probably somewhere out in the country.
Yeah, she's driving and she does have the suitcase and it's just full of money.
She got all the money that they had been stealing to make Project Honeymoon happen. And we think the movie's over. And it flashes to the face of Larry King. Now, Larry King is talking about, like, espionage, murder, crime. All these things happen in this. I believe Hennessy wrote a book. And
because Perkins has been indicted. They're shutting down what's called Chapter, which is the name of the bureau that Charlie worked for. And this scene right here with Samuel L. Jackson where he's telling one-liners and he's giving jokes, and they flash to the ex-wife who really hates him. She Hennessy's ex-wife won't even let their son accept birthday presents. Like, he bought earlier in the movie, it's something we kind of skipped over. He bought his son a bike for his birthday, and she wouldn't let him keep it because she called all the bike shops to make sure that none of them had been robbed. And they're watching the TV, and he's on Larry King talking about how he saved the country. And they're like mouth open, like can't believe what they're seeing, and he's smiling. He's like, right back at you, Mr. King. It's a pretty good... Because there was a lady that was questioning if his story was real, and he's like, well, with women, I'm always frank and earnest. I'm frank in New York, and I'm earnest in Chicago, or something.
He gives a line like that, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, the ending scene, though, so we kind of get left with the idea that Charlie is out of the game, but not gameless, because they're eating steak. They're sitting on the bed of a pickup truck, like on the tailgate, and they're eating steak dinners, and they have some sheep, and Catherine's playing with the sheep, and she finishes her steak, and you kind of see her go like this with a steak knife, and then throw it like she did in the beginning of the movie, and it sticks in some wood. And so we get the idea that Charlie's out of the game, but not gameless. She doesn't want to play anymore, but she's not done.
Because I guess it was written with like a sequel in mind, but because of the performance of the movie at the box office, it just never came to light. Although Rennie Harlin would still like to make a sequel to it someday. But...
There are other more recent directors that I feel like I could name that I would really want to see make a Long Kiss Goodnight sequel.
Yeah.
There are a few. But even still, like, it should have got the sequel. It's a much better movie than other action movies that are of its contemporary. Like, a year either way.
Yeah.
But I feel like because it had Rennie Harlin, Geena Davis, it had kind of a bad taste in audiences' mouths coming in. It kind of got snubbed even by action audiences, which is kind of a bummer because it's a good action movie. There's like I pointed out, we're honest here. If we see something wrong, we'll call it out and we'll tell you what we see that's probably not up to snuff. And I did. I pointed out the couple of times where the movie kind of doesn't hold up, but other than that, it's fantastic. The script is awesome. The performances in this movie almost are too good for the movie. Like, these actors really cared about how their performances turned out in this movie that could have easily been written off as a B movie, and it's not.
Yeah, like Geena Davis took all kinds of weapons handling training and stuff like that.
Samuel L. Jackson took classes on how PIs actually work. Even though he knew he was a no-good PI, he wanted to know how it actually worked so he could react to things correctly. Even, like, the actress that plays Catherine, the little girl, she doesn't have much screen time, but the time she is on the screen, she's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like you said, the guy that plays Timothy ended up on Broadway, which is kind of amazing.
Like, I don't know how much Broadway he's actually done, but...
Well, like you said, he was Tony nominated, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he did The Music Man.
Well, that's impressive. Oh, I love that show. Have you ever seen The Music Man?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's old school Broadway. It's almost vaudeville. It's awesome. I have the sheet music in the other room.
Oh.
Yeah. Highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a Christmas movie. The whole movie looks cold.
Even
it's shot in white filter.
The opening scene, the first, because it's playing a Christmas song, so the
it's
first
Elvis
thing
Presley's Merry Christmas Baby.
The first word you hear in this movie is Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's Christmas stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The Elvis Presley's Merry Christmas Baby is the first song you hear.
Yeah.
It almost has a soundtrack like Home Alone, because there's so many like oldie Christmas songs in it. Yeah, it should be held up in the pantheon of Christmas action movies.
Yeah. Like your holiday sweater that lights up. Make it light up.
It was lit up earlier, but I didn't want it to be on the whole show because that would have been hard for anybody to watch if anybody actually watched this. It would have been particularly distracting if I'd have given the whole, especially this is kind of weird looking. That's kind of crazy looking. That looks like a special effect.
Yeah.
But highly recommend. Amazing action movie by Shane Black and Rennie Harlan. The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Mm-hmm. If you've never seen it and you would like to borrow it, we have a copy of it.
Yep. And if you can encourage your friends to get that follower goal up to 50, we can start doing some plans. We have plans for things we want to do once we get a certain amount of followers and regular viewers.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get up to 50 followers, maybe 25 regular viewers, then we have ideas for like giveaways and things of movies that we think, like this one, are significant to culture, even if culture has not remembered them.
Yes, exactly.
So, I'm Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostick. Oh, and we're going to be taking a break.
Oh, well, yes. We will not be live for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Next week, our channel will not be active. Mm-hmm. Next week, we're not doing anything. Mm-hmm. The week after, so New Year's week, we'll be doing we're gonna
yeah, because we have both of the holidays on the weekends,
right?
So
we're going to practice our video editing skills and try to make you a highlight clip show. We're gonna pick out some of the best moments of the show up to the half point of the season.
Yeah,
put them in like a little VH1 style clip show. Some highlights of the show so far, and that's what we're gonna deliver New Year's weekend if you're home and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last week's episode still isn't up on Spotify yet.
I feel attacked.
We're a little behind on some stuff right now, but
that wasn't necessary.
Why?
I'm joking. I'm the one that makes the Spotify stuff.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot going on.
It's been a hard
holidays are
week.
Coming up, and
the holidays are tough.
Yeah.
Especially we do all of this ourselves. It's not like we have, and then we do a lot. Like we edit things really nicely, and we put the music. Yeah, we try to edit as best we can, and we put like the music into the Spotify episodes, and it's all kind of time consuming. And when you don't have the time, it's tough.
Yeah.
So next week, nothing. 2 weeks. Hopefully, we have a pretty funny like clip show, moments, highlights. We'll try to get about 45 minutes, an hour worth.
Yeah.
And if you see this or listen to this and you like what you hear, we're available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We haven't really done anything on the TikTok channel. Like once we make the clip show, we'll be able to start putting TikTok.
It's hard trying to manage all this stuff sometimes. Like, it's a lot of work.
Well, once we make the clip show, we'll have clips to put on the TikTok channel. At least that's cool. We put out one a week or something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. Oh, we may or may not have an announcement when we come back. Hopefully.
Maybe. But yeah.
Your turn.
So yeah, we hope everyone enjoys the holidays, and we will see you in 2022. Think pink and have a sparkling week.
Adopt. Don't shop.
Bye.
Bye.